Today, I'm taking a TIG welding test, but I'm gonna do everything wrong on purpose. I'm using a tungsten that's destroyed, already dipped and contaminated. The settings on my machine are completely wrong, and my filler material, I literally found it under my table in the dirt. A certified CWI is going to be inspecting this work when I'm done. Let's see if my good technique with TIG welding can save a test that should 100% fail. You guys have all met this dude before, you all know him. This is my buddy Jason Becker. He has been a friend of mine for years now. He owns and operates the Arc Junkies podcast. I've been on that show a handful of times. But Jason also runs and operates one of the most legit welding schools and welding test centers in North America. He's one of the best instructors and one of the most knowledgeable guys that I know in welding, period. He is for sure the most legit CWI you will ever meet. This guy has certifications and tickets for things I don't even know exist. Okay, can you give a brief explanation of the welding test that I'm gonna try and do here today?
Yeah, man. So that's, just a regular butt weld. If you were going to use a code for aluminum, I would recommend AWS D1.2. That's the code for structural aluminum. But essentially, it's just, a butt weld, putting two pieces of plates together, and then doing the, one weld right down the middle, getting full penetration through it, getting adequate fusion and weld reinforcement on the top. The joint designation for that would be a BP1A.
You can see the details of the material here on screen. It's gonna have to have the welding and the penetration completely ground off and then be subjected to a bending test. But first, let's get set up here to weld. And remember, I want to do everything around here as wrong as possible. All right, looking around my shop, I do have some really nice fancy gear here. So what I'm gonna do is swap out the torch. This is an old air-cooled stock torch that came with one of my machines. I haven't used this one in years. This is a torch that so many people complain about online too. But honestly, I've used it in the past without issues, so let's go for it. What's the worst that can happen? For the machine I'm gonna use my Everlast Typhoon 230. You guys all know how much I actually do love this machine. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my settings for this machine very simple. And as a matter of fact, they're gonna be so dead simple. A lot of the settings are actually gonna mimic or replicate this old fella here. I grew up using this machine. I used to love this thing, but that machine had a few hiccups, so we're gonna try and duplicate it here. The first thing I'm gonna do is program way more amperage than I will ever need. Again, this is 1/8 inch thick material. You can see I'm programming this for like way over what I'm gonna actually need. This machine has the capability of being super custom, fine-tuned with the settings, but I'm gonna set it up with a basic square wave setting, as well as decreasing my frequency all the way down to 60 hertz. 60 hertz is exactly the same frequency that this old fella used to weld at here. Like I said, that's as basic as you can get. Next thing I'm gonna adjust on this machine, however, is my balance. You all know people go way too deep in comment sections on things about what exact balance they should be using for this and that. And yes, it does matter, but using this old love of my life here that I used to love practicing on, the balance knob was actually broken. And this old buddy of mine was always set at 30% cleaning, always. So what I'm gonna do is set up my Everlast with the same balance setting because we're gonna pretend that the knob is broken. And one thing I'm actually gonna do is I'm going to decrease the gas in the working pressure on my regulator. Way less gas than most people would actually recommend. But because I'm using a basic diffuser setup with a normal cup, I'm actually gonna only use around 10 CFH. Like I said, that's much less than most people actually recommend. Once I get everything set up, check this out. I hit the gas on my pedal to do a gas purge. Always something I recommend doing after you switch out a line of any kind. And look at this. This old torch literally blew a bunch of black shit out of it. Look at my hand. I hit the gas a few more times and the exact same thing happened. Well, my goal for today is to give myself as much obstacles as I can, so let's keep going. I need a tungsten. Here is a perfect one. This one has been dipped and contaminated. I've been procrastinating on cleaning all these ones on my table, so I'm gonna grab the sauciest one I can find here. Yeah, this one's perfect. I also need to grab myself some filler material. I do have this whole tube of clean ones here, but screw that. I'm gonna look around under my table here. I have been neglecting this length of filler material. It's been down there for literally over a year. Let's use it. So let's get into the preparing for my test. And this is actually where things are gonna start to get very strategic. I'm gonna demonstrate some really good fundamentals that are actually probably gonna give me a decent chance at passing this welding test. Cleaning the material and preparing it properly is one of these things. And again, this stuff is in my new hardcover textbook. Check the link in the description below and grab a copy. It's a Black Friday sale right now. If you grab one of these, you're gonna get some crazy bonuses. Go check it out. You can see the first thing I'm doing here is cleaning everything with acetone. This material that I'm using here is absolutely brand new. I literally just peeled the plastic off of it, but check it out. Even though it's brand new, it's still dirty. Always clean your material no matter what. Now, one thing I'm always gonna do is wire brush my material with really good organization. You can see here, this is a trick I've shown many times on this show. I use one plate as a ruler and I'm wire brushing the edge of the bottom plate. I'm wire brushing in one direction. You can see when I'm finished how clean this looks and organized. And then I use that plate as a ruler for the bottom plate, same deal. I'm actually gonna do the exact same thing to the bottom side of the joint as well. That's right, both sides. Even though I'm not actually doing any welding on the other side, scrubbing away any or bringing back any of that kind of like surface layer of oxidization that aluminum typically has on it. It's gonna help if you do get penetration to keep things blended together on the other side of the plate with good fusion. Now, here's another thing that most people don't do. Watch this. I am going to decontaminate with acetone. Again, yes, like I said, I've already done it once, but after I scrubbed away on these things, I'm gonna make sure I remove any other stuff as far as any possible contamination. Now, another thing I probably need to do is clean the filler material that I found under my table. This has been exposed to all kinds of shop dirt, grinding dust, and I've absolutely stepped on this thing multiple times over the last year or so. You can see after wiping this thing off how dirty it is. Holy crap. When it comes to anything as legitimate as trying to pass a welding test, give yourself every chance that you can for some kind of success. So we have our machine, not at all dialed, but it's running. We have some gas flowing, but I do have my filler material clean and my joint prepared really nicely. Let's start putting this together. As I'm tacking this together, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to kind of check and see if things are indeed running okay. To be honest, everything is not looking very clean at all, but this is what I've committed to, so let's keep going. After I finish this one, I have to cut it up into strips like this. The pieces on the end will be a 1/2 inch shorter than the actual welding test is supposed to be. That's just the size of the plate I have in the shop here today. But the pieces all in the middle will be the proper size for what they need to be for a legitimate test. These two pieces here are going to be bent over a radius. These are the legit pieces that are going to be tested. One of these will be bent, putting all of the strain on the face side of the joint. This is the side that I will have my welding on. And the other coupon is going to be bent with the root side. This is going to be bent the opposite way, putting the stress on the other side. This is why getting really good and consistent penetration is important with this one. This is typically the side that fails for a lot of people. You can see this thing is clamped securely. Everything looks pretty good. And here we go. The first thing that I need to do is make sure that I am comfortable, able to see clearly. Obviously, I'm welding this in my shop with a camera in my face, trying to film it for a YouTube episode. As I mentioned, I have way too much amperage on the panel, but I'm using my foot pedal. I'm just lightly feathering it on and finding roughly what I need to get the puddle to drop. And you can see, looking at the other side, this happens pretty easily actually. But what happens at this point is I want to make sure I keep a close eye on the puddle to make sure it doesn't fall flat or concave. I want to focus on keeping this relatively narrow. I don't want the puddle to get too wide, and the amount of filler material that I need to use is very important. This is how I keep up my reinforcement and prevent things from overheating and falling through and overheating. Running along here, I'm noticing that this is dirty. We're getting some kind of contaminant happening. This is not running clean at all. I'm definitely getting a bit worried as I start to see a lot of this stuff happening. I'm guessing that a lot of this is coming from the torch lead that was shooting out black soot earlier. But like I said, we're committed. Let's keep welding. Backing off nice and slow here, making sure I keep up the filler material. Don't let it fall concave. Arc off and finish up. Let's go. Now let's take a look and see what it looks like. Doesn't look half bad if I'm being honest, but I am concerned with all this stuff I see on the surface here. This is contaminant that's actually stuck in the welding deposit. The distance of stepping as well as the overall width of the welding profile does look pretty good. Again, these are all details that are very important that I teach you how to do in this textbook here. Like I said, I'm assuming that a lot of this contamination has something to do with the black stuff that was shooting out of the torch lead that I used. The amount of this stuff in the welding deposit is not a good sign. I'm hoping that a lot of this contamination is just on the surface of the welding deposit. We're gonna find out more when we start to grind it down. Now, the biggest thing, did I get good penetration with this one? Like we talked about, this is one of the most important things with this test. Without this being done properly, my root bend test is a fail for sure. Let's flip it over and would you look at that? Nice. This one has really good penetration all along the other side. Take a look at this angle that I filmed here from underneath. How satisfying is this to watch? As I run along the welding pass, managing the heat, making sure I keep up my filler material, the penetration sinks through nice and slow. Although this is sped up for you guys, it's consistent from start to finish. Again, I don't want things to get too wide. This is gonna compromise the actual structure. Okay, so it is welded. What do you think of it before I cut it up?
I mean, for not having completely brand new clean materials, filler metals and all that stuff, I think it looks pretty damn good.
Who knows, my welding test might stand a chance, but I'm not happy with the top side. So it's time to cut it up. Let's get going with my bandsaw here. You can see that I am labeling my coupons that I need to use, one for my root and one for my face band tests. Yes, I'm good at spelling. I'm labeling these at the bottom of the plate so that when I grind the middle, I don't remove my labels. This part is pretty straightforward. I'm just using some cutting fluid to make sure that my lines stay completely straight and cutting with a bandsaw. Remember your safety. You can see that I'm using cutting fluid and I'm also using one of my cutoffs as a push stick, keeping my fingers away from it. Did you guys see the episode I did on shop safety? I actually simulated what happens to your fingers in a bandsaw. Pretty much nightmare stuff here, hey? Be careful, use your safety gear. You can see after all these have been cut apart, I flipped them over and they've actually all been numbered on the back. Again, these are areas that are not going to be ground off, and because they're all numbered on the back side, I know that that's my root side of the welding pass. The first thing I have to do is grind the welding reinforcement as well as the penetration down flat. I'm gonna do this with my belt sander, as you can see here, and I'm just gonna take down the top of the reinforcement. You can see I'm doing it. I don't actually wanna hit the base material all that much. The odd little touch here and there, but I'm mostly focused on the welding area. I just wanna remove enough so it's easy to buff down after. You can see I'm also doing the edges. I'm gonna get the direction of the grain going lengthwise, and I'll explain that in a second here. I've also got these two separate pieces in the middle of the welding specimen here. They're not supposed to be prepared and bent, but I'm gonna do it anyway, just for the fun of it. Let's test everything. Now take a look at this welding coupon right here. Which way would you put your grinding direction? Would you put it this way lengthwise, or would you put it this way? Like I said, we are going to get into some fundamental best practices of welding test here. Even though my settings are jacked and I was using some questionable gear, I'm going to do everything I can to give myself any kind of a chance to pass this. Think about it like this. Watch this. These are going to be bent lengthwise around a radius like this. We are going to be putting strain across the welding area in this direction. So if we were to put our grinding direction opposite to this, this might actually open up the surface and present little areas for cracks to form if the grain has now been directed this way. We want to have our grinding direction going in the same direction as the pressure or strain that is going to be applied when the bend happens. You can see that I'm grinding lengthwise. Even the stuff on the edges is done lengthwise as well. And then I'm going to finish it off with my grinder. This is a 3M Scotch-Brite pad. These are great for buffing material down. This is where I can blend the filler material into the base material. I'm using the top of the grinding pad. This is going to help to keep the grain direction going across the welding area lengthwise. And you can see here I'm kind of just scuffing the grain direction with the top of the pad at half speed. This helps keep the graining direction lengthwise and nice and smooth. You can also see I'm going to radius my corners. I'm going to round these over a little bit with the grinder. These are actually allowed to be radiused, and it recommends doing so in the welding procedure for this test. Doing this is going to help to get rid of any imperfections on the corners. Under pressure, this gives you a lot better of a chance for passing. After all this, I'm going to wrap a piece of Scotch-Brite hand pad over the edge of my table, and I'm going to polish these things lengthwise. By this time, you've probably noticed that I'm spending a crazy amount of time on my preparation with every step I do here. A lot of people back in school actually used to make fun of me because I took forever to finish tests, but check out these welding coupons that are now ready to be bent. They are absolutely spotless. They are organized and labeled. The preparation with my grinding was as meticulous as I was with my preparation before welding. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you've noticed the theme here, even with a setup that's super sketchy, the experience that I have had in multiple decades of weld testing, as well as going away to school, all that stuff for it, this has taught me a lot of really good fundamental best practices for something like this. The details of my welding, even though it was welding a little bit dirty, actually were really bang on to what I teach all my students in my programs. And again, these details are in my textbooks here. Okay, here we go. I don't have a proper bending jig, but I'm gonna fix something up on my table here. I need something with a 1/2 inch radius. Looking at these things here, these are too big. This one's also too big, but this one here is actually part of a clamp that goes into my strong hand tools table. This is almost exactly 1/2 inch. Almost exactly. I'm gonna set up another block behind it to hold it in place. I'm gonna lock on a pair of vice grips and let's go. This is the face bend that I'm doing here first. I'm gonna start bending slowly. Everything's looking good so far. And holy moly, I made it all the way around. I'm gonna pound this one the whole way with a hammer just to finish it off. We can see close up that we have no surface fracturing. We don't have any porosity that has popped open. I'm really stoked that a lot of that garbage, dirty stuff we saw earlier stayed on the surface. And I might actually attribute that to that too high of a balance setting that I set. A lot of the time when you run excessive cleaning, a lot of like impurities and contamination that might be in the joint kind of float up to the surface at times. And then when I went through the process of grinding all that stuff off, it looks like the actual welding area inside stayed pretty clean. I'm really pumped on this one. What do you think, dude? Was this one a pass? Damn. Nice. Thanks, buddy. Now, to set up the next one, this is the root bend. This is the one that has the highest chance of failing, all right? This one can make or break all the time that I put into trying to pass this test here. So I'm gonna put it in my little fixture here. I'm gonna start to bend slowly, but I can already feel this one in my hands, and it is going around just as nicely as the other one. Again, I'm gonna give it a hardcore band beat down here with my hammer just to show it who's boss. No sign of any problems. Let's take a look. Let's scrutinize this one closely. Checking it out here, we can see this one also does not show any signs of fracturing. A lot of the times this one will split right where the filler material or the penetration meets the base material. This is very common for root bend tests. We don't see any signs of fracturing on the edges. My little alien guy here, what do you think, dude? All right, cool, thanks. And like I said, just for the sake of bending everything here in sight today, these little strips that I cut out from the center, I ground these down earlier. Now I'm gonna throw them around the radius and pound them all the way too. You can see these ones also held up really well. All in all, I can probably safely say that the preparation I put into all of my material and stuff before I took this test, these are absolutely the factors that outweighed the bad settings, the weird setup. It was literally the only thing that gave me a fighting chance of maybe passing a test. Okay, so buddy, even though we're doing this over the internet by distance for a YouTube episode that's for fun, what would you give this for a verdict? Would you give it a pass or a fail?
Just going off looks of what I can see in the video, obviously, you know, I'm not there firsthand, but you know, there's always undercut. No, I'm kidding. But you know, just going off the visual that you got there, I don't see any signs of lack of fusion. You didn't have any cavities open up or what we call linear indications. I'd say you're good to go, man. I would probably pass that.
Obviously, this was meant to just be fun, but for having fun on YouTube, I hope we all learned something here today. Again, pick up a textbook. I'm super proud of these things. I print them here in Canada. These are packaged up in my garage by my wife and I. There is no drop shipping, no Amazon deal, anything like that. Any support from you guys, I appreciate immensely. Do a random act of kindness for a stranger today. I mean it. My name is Dusty James. Fill and chill. We will talk soon. Peace.